Well, Google's autocomplete is biased in favor of Hillary Clinton. That is what recent research from Sputnik News suggests. Google will reportedly suggest only positive search results for the Democratic presidential candidate. Joining me right now, the man behind the article, senior research psychologist at the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology, Dr. Robert Epstein. Dr. Epstein, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Maria.
You know, most people, when they use Google, they're not expecting it to get political. So tell us what your findings suggest.
Well, they're a little shocking. We did an experiment to see what happens when you show people negative search suggestions, like something about Hillary's health or Donald Trump flip-flops, things like that. And what we found is that negative search suggestions attract a tremendous number of clicks, especially for undecided voters. Undecided voters will click on a negative search suggestion about 15 times as often as they'll click on a neutral search suggestion. So a simple way to kind of rig an election is to suppress negative search suggestions for your favored candidate, but to allow negative search suggestions for the other candidate. And there's a lot of evidence that, in fact, Google has been doing exactly that for Hillary Clinton.
Wow. Well, we know that the founders and the senior leadership are fans of Hillary. I mean, Eric Schmidt and the founders of the company as well. But they have said, look, this is autocomplete, and this is an algorithm. It's not something that we can control. So what's the answer to that?
Well, we looked at that very carefully, and what we found is that, in fact, they're suppressing almost all negatives for Hillary Clinton, but they're not doing that for other people, other prominent people, including Donald Trump. So there does seem to be bias there, and not only that, the numbers are big, because we estimate that this manipulation alone will shift somewhere between 800,000 and 3.2 million votes in November.
Wow. Mike Baker, this is pretty extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. And when you talk about it in light of the previous story about the Russian hacking, and you talk about what's the game plan behind the Russian hacking of the DNC and the electoral infrastructure, in part, it's possibly to damage, trust in the electoral system. You see something like this, what the doctor's talking about with Google, and it has, in a sense, the same impact once it becomes public, once people are aware of it.
Yeah, who do you trust?
Right, exactly. Who do you trust?
Yeah. So, Dr. Epstein, what should we be doing about this? I mean, obviously, we want to make sure people understand that there is a capability to do this.
The problem is that our research also shows that, generally speaking, people can't see this kind of manipulation. They're just, they're acting very swiftly. They're getting some suggestions. They're clicking on something. Basically, people are unaware, and especially in search rankings, people are entirely unaware of any kind of manipulations there. And if you manipulate search rankings to favor one candidate, that can shift between 2.6 and 10.4 million votes with no one being aware.
Wow.
And no paper trail.
See, that's gigantic, because it comes to the top of the page, too. Not only do you get the autocorrect, but you get the story at the top, in the top 4. I mean, how many times do you Google something? Yeah. Do you go all the way to the bottom to that story? No, you go to the top 5 and pick the story out of the top.
Right. Well, we know that Google's denying this, Dr. Epstein, but we also know that when it comes to, like, Facebook, the founder just gave $20 million to Hillary. So, I mean, some are being clear about who their candidate is.
Well, there's no question that there's favoritism here.
Dr. Epstein, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.